Aries souls, something is shifting. And if you've been feeling strangely emotional, unusually tired, deeply reflective, or like something inside you is preparing for a change you cannot yet explain, do not ignore that feeling. August 23rd carries an energy that may feel subtle on the outside, but deeply personal on the inside. You may not see a dramatic event happen in front of you. Instead, the change may begin quietly. A thought suddenly makes sense. A person suddenly feels different. An old desire loses its power. A decision you have been avoiding starts becoming obvious. And here is what I want you to remember. Not every cosmic shift arrives with fireworks. Sometimes the universe changes your direction by changing you first. In today's message, we're going through 5 signs that this cosmic energy is already working on you. And stay until the 5th sign, because it may be the one that explains why you've recently felt like your old life doesn't completely fit anymore. Take a deep breath. If you're an Aries soul, or you're simply feeling called to this message, this may be your sign to arise. There are moments in life when nothing looks different, but everything feels different. You wake up and realize you don't want the same things. You hear someone's words and suddenly understand what they really meant. You look at an old dream and realize that maybe the dream wasn't wrong. Maybe the timing was. This is why spiritual transformation can be confusing. You expect transformation to feel powerful, but sometimes it feels like uncertainty. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like losing interest in things that once consumed your attention. And that's where August 23rd becomes interesting for the Aries soul. This isn't about forcing something to happen. It's about noticing what is already happening inside you. Because before life changes externally, your internal compass often changes first. So let's look at the 5 signs. And as you listen, don't just ask, is this happening to me? Ask something deeper. What is my life trying to show me? 1. You are losing interest in what used to control you. The first sign may surprise you. You're becoming less emotionally attached to things that once had tremendous power over you. Maybe it is a person, maybe it is an old argument, maybe it's the need to prove yourself, maybe it's the desire to make everyone understand you, or maybe it's an old version of success you once believed you needed. And suddenly, you don't care as much. At first, this can feel strange. You may even wonder, what's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Sometimes detachment is not emptiness. Sometimes detachment is growth. Aries energy is naturally forward-moving. You are not designed to remain trapped in yesterday forever. But when you've spent too long fighting for something, releasing it can feel almost uncomfortable. That's why you might mistake peace for boredom. You might mistake emotional distance for losing your passion. But pay attention. If something that once drained your energy no longer has the same hold over you, that may be a sign that you're becoming unavailable for the same cycle. And here's the important part. Don't chase the old feeling just because you're used to it. Growth can feel unfamiliar because you've never lived this version of yourself before. 2. Your intuition is getting louder. The second sign is more subtle. You're starting to know things before you can explain them. You may suddenly feel that you shouldn't send a message. You may feel that you need to wait. You may feel drawn toward a certain opportunity. You may meet someone and immediately sense that their energy is important. You don't necessarily have evidence. You just know. Now, this doesn't mean every impulse is automatically a divine message. Use discernment. But there is a difference between fear and intuition. Fear usually creates frantic energy. Intuition often creates a quiet knowing. And around periods of inner transition, that quiet knowing can become much easier to hear. That's why you may notice yourself wanting more silence, more alone time, more reflection, less noise, less explanation. You may suddenly realize, I don't need everyone to understand what I'm becoming. And that realization is powerful, because your next chapter cannot always be explained to people who only know your previous one. 3. Old emotions are surfacing for release. Now we reach a sign that many people misunderstand. You may suddenly remember something from years ago, a conversation, a betrayal, a disappointment, a moment when you felt overlooked. You thought you were completely over it. Then suddenly, the emotion comes back. Why? Because healing doesn't always happen in a straight line. Sometimes an old emotion returns because you're finally strong enough to process it differently. Think about it this way. You don't revisit the past because you're supposed to live there. You revisit it because there may be something inside that no longer needs to travel with you. So if August 23rd brings unexpected emotions, don't immediately judge yourself. Don't say, why am I feeling this again? Instead ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me now? Maybe you're learning boundaries. Maybe you're learning self-respect. Maybe you're finally forgiving yourself. Maybe you're realizing that what happened to you does not have to define what happens next. And Aries, this is important. You do not have to carry every battle into your future just because you survived it in your past. Some battles end when you stop giving them your energy. 4. A door starts closing without you forcing it. Now we come to a sign that can feel uncomfortable. Something may begin moving away. A relationship may become distant. A plan may stop making sense. An opportunity may disappear. A situation you were desperately trying to maintain may suddenly become impossible to continue. And your first reaction may be, why is this happening? But wait, what if the closure isn't punishment? What if it's protection? What if the door is closing because you were about to keep walking through an entrance that no longer belongs to your future? Sometimes we pray for a new chapter while desperately holding on to the previous one. And life creates the separation for us. That doesn't mean every loss is cosmic destiny. It means that sometimes an ending creates the space required for a beginning. So if something is shifting around August 23rd, don't immediately chase it. Pause, observe, ask yourself, was I holding on to this because it was right for me, or because I was afraid of what would happen without it? That question can change everything, because there is a difference between losing something and being released from something. 5. You feel a strong urge to become someone new. This is the deepest sign. You don't just want a new situation, you want a new version of yourself. You start thinking differently. You start protecting your peace. You become more selective with your attention. You stop explaining every decision. You stop begging people to recognize your value. You stop asking, when will my life change? And you begin asking, who do I need to become for the life I want? That is a completely different question. And Aries energy understands this deeply, because Aries is about movement, initiation, courage, identity, the willingness to step forward before you have every answer. Maybe August 23rd isn't asking you to have your entire future figured out. Maybe it is simply asking you to stop returning to the version of yourself that you have already outgrown. Read that again in your heart. Stop returning to who you had to be. You are allowed to become someone new. Now let's connect all 5 signs. Losing interest in old patterns, hearing your intuition more clearly, releasing old emotions, watching certain doors close, feeling called toward a new identity. Do you see the pattern? This isn't 5 completely separate experiences. It's one transformation happening in stages. First, you stop wanting the old life. Then, you begin hearing yourself more clearly. Then, old emotional weight rises for release. Then, certain doors naturally close. And finally, you begin becoming the person who can walk through the next door. That's why the process can feel confusing. You're standing between identities. You're not who you used to be, but you haven't fully met the next version of yourself yet. And that middle space can feel lonely. But don't mistake the silence for failure. Sometimes the quietest chapter is where your strongest identity is being built. Now, Arise souls, I want you to be careful about one thing. Don't force the universe to prove itself. Don't obsess over every number. Don't assume every message is a prediction. Don't chase people because you think they're part of your destiny. Don't make impulsive decisions just because you feel emotionally activated. And don't confuse spiritual excitement with certainty. Instead, slow down. Observe. Reflect. Let your intuition work alongside common sense. The most powerful transformation isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's simply realizing, I don't have to react the way I used to. That is power. You don't have to respond to every trigger. You don't have to explain every boundary. You don't have to chase every opportunity. You don't have to keep proving your worth. Sometimes your next level begins with one simple decision. I choose differently now. August 23rd, your personal message. So what should you do with this energy? Start with 3 questions. Tonight, or whenever you have a quiet moment, ask yourself, what am I finally ready to release? What truth have I been avoiding? And most importantly, what kind of person am I becoming? Don't rush the answers. Let them come naturally. Because sometimes your first answer is what your mind thinks. Your deeper answer comes later. And if you've been feeling emotionally sensitive lately, give yourself permission to slow down. If you've been questioning your direction, give yourself permission to observe. If you've been feeling like something is ending, don't automatically assume something is wrong. And if you suddenly feel excited about your future again, don't talk yourself out of it. Maybe that spark is important. Maybe your inner fire is returning. Aries soul, there is something I want you to remember as you move through August 23rd. You don't need to see the entire road. You only need enough courage to take the next step. Your life is not asking you to become perfect. It's asking you to become honest. Honest about what you want. Honest about what you no longer want. Honest about who gives you energy, honest about what drains you, honest about the dreams you've been postponing, and honest about the person you are becoming. So if these 5 signs have been appearing in your life, don't panic, don't force, don't chase, observe. Because sometimes the universe doesn't announce your transformation. It reveals it through your reactions, the things you no longer tolerate, the people you no longer chase, the emotions you finally release, the boundaries you finally create, and the dreams you finally allow yourself to believe in again. This is your reminder. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not starting from zero. You are carrying everything you've learned into the person you're becoming. And maybe, just maybe, August 23rd isn't the day your entire life changes overnight. Maybe it's the day you finally recognize that you have already changed. So take a breath, put your hand over your heart, and say, I release what no longer belongs to me. I trust the wisdom within me. I welcome the next version of myself. I do not chase what is leaving. I do not fear what is beginning. I am ready to arise. Arise, Aries. Your next chapter doesn't need permission from your past. And if something inside you whispered, this message was for me, don't ignore that feeling. Maybe this is your moment to stop looking backward and finally turn toward the light ahead. Your old chapter may be closing. Your new identity is already forming, and the next step is yours.